And she says, "Oh, Maddox said that you had the best decryption foo of anybody," or something like that. And I'm like, then why weren't you didn't you know him more whenever you met him if you'd heard about why weren't you like, "Oh yeah, Maddox talked about you," if you knew who he was? Because that would have helped us some, knowing that somebody else knew about Data's like biological brother, and biological meaning that the brother was, a human instead of them actually being biologically related. You get it.
Yeah, I thought that felt out of place as well.
It would have been a whole 3 seconds for her to say, "Oh, Bruce used to talk about you."
Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot, and I think it comes through in this episode especially. There's a lot that has apparently happened off screen that we don't see, we don't know about, and that the show is just telling us this is the way that it is. And I think that in this episode and the previous episode, it was those kinds of things were very clear or were presented very this is just the way that it is. Just trust us that this is the way it happened. And it's a bit much. I felt like the storytelling suffered a little bit here in their rush to wrap up this storyline. I really expected there to be a lot more hanging threads at the end of this season, and I was so surprised there weren't.
Too.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Brooke, you and I all along have said that we expected there to be cliffhangers, and we expected there to be a big question mark that would be resolved or at least continued in season 2. And I feel like that's not really the case. And we can sort of talk about that as we get to the end of the episode, but I feel like there were some sacrifices in the storytelling here to just sort of push this plot along. And it doesn't mean I didn't like or even really love a lot of this episode, but I do think that some of the storytelling did suffer here.
Yeah, it was like a Greek tragedy where everything happens off stage, but the chorus tells you what's going on, but we didn't really have a chorus.
Oh, that's a great example. Perfect example. That's exactly how I felt. Yeah.
I'm not one for monologues of exposition, but at least somewhere we could have found out that she knew who he was, because it just seems weird that, we meet him and no one knows who he is, and we haven't forgot about that. Akiva Goldsman.
Yeah,
right.
Michael Shannon.
Would that have been to just shoehorn in dialogue
Alex Kurtzman
towards the beginning of the season, where she's first being asked about the super advanced AI, and be like, "Oh yeah, Bruce worked with this other Dr. Sung guy. Dr. Sung had a kid." It's like, oh no, we gotta wait and tell you about that at the end of the season.
Yeah, they were really holding that. They were really playing those cards close to the chest there, of wanting that big reveal of Dr. Sung had a biological child besides creating Data and Lore and B4 and who knows how many other androids along the way.
After, like I was saying,
before,
later.
be after.
I remember I said later, and you said with an 8.
LAT8R, yeah.
Yes. But he does have the initials AI, so that was Sung's contribution to his goofy name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, she asked him to decrypt this stuff for her, and she somehow knows who he is, and we're all wondering why, from the past. So he leaves her in there to watch this transfer of Saga's memories and stuff to download for her sister. And she kind of watches it for a second, and then she goes over and she rips out Saga's eye.
Yeah, did anybody else guess what she was digging at first?
Well, I thought that's what it was because, I've watched apparently a lot of things where people have bad things happen to their eyes, so I know the sort of squishy sound that they make when they in the Foley room. But I was like, I didn't think about, she's getting it to use it. to get in. I thought she was taking it because it had information in it.
Yeah, it was more squelchy than I thought it would be. It sounded like a very juicy eyeball that she was digging out, and I was like, why is it so squishy?
Yes, exactly. It's
squishy. Yeah. I mean, I thought, I figured she was digging the eyeball out. I assumed she wanted to see what was on it, like in the I guessed that she had wanted to. What happened, Joe?
So she pulls it out and like rubs it on her shirt, and there's a little micro USB port on the back, and she just plugs it into her phone. Like, that's what happened.
He says she rubs it on her shirt. I'm imagining her like breathing on it first.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you with my stupidity.
She just pulled out one of those little handy wipes, and she was like, there we go, good as new.
There, now you can see.
I figured she expected to find evidence of what really happened, like in her death. And certainly the story that Sutra tells is that that's the right one, right? Sutra? Like now I'm doubting myself. Sutra is the one who looks just like Soji, right?
Yes, Sutra and Jana were the twins.
Jana were sisters. Yeah. Okay. She, of course, she told everybody that Narek killed Saga. And so that's the story we've been told. And even Narek cops to his sister saying that he killed one. So it's like, oh, maybe he really did kill her. But obviously here, I think Girardi is thinking something else happened or something more happened than what was shared with the group. And I think that's what she's looking for here is the evidence, because that's the only thing that's going to convince Dr. Soong to change his mind is going to be seeing evidence of something else.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I don't know why it wasn't so simple as her to use it to get into Picard's room like she did. I mean, they probably wouldn't have showed Soji scanning her eye like that if it wasn't for it.
Like, oh, Agnes has seen Minority Report.
One of those ancient movies, as they call them. Is that right?
Back in the ancient West.
Is that a movie?
Ancient West. That's my favorite. The Ancient West. Oh, okay. So yeah. So she steals the eye. We weren't all exactly sure what was going on, but that's okay. We find out soon. Then we cut to outside the La Serena. For some reason, they're sitting outside. They got the ship working again, but they're sitting outside at a bonfire. Like, I didn't understand this. Was this just a cinematic choice?
Absolutely.
It's like, because they're telling like ghost stories, but really they're telling this like Romulan myth about like the end of everything, basically.
Oh, it was so metal.
Yeah. It was the twin demons, and it's called Gon Madan. And they're like, oh, you really believe this prophecy and blah, blah, blah. And then Narek says, it's history, and history repeats itself kind of thing. And it kind of made me chuckle because I'm like he's telling this whole thing, and I'm like, oh, somebody's like sitting there going, why is Star Trek political? It's like, because it's true, people. Things do repeat themselves like that. And one of the things that repeats themselves is me sometimes. So bear with me.
Well, I did like how they did compare Gon Madan to Ragnarok. And I think anybody who's a comic book reader, as I know Joe is, and I know Brooke is, and I am, the word Ragnarok should definitely trigger inside of you or invoke certain images and feelings and actions happening of basically being the end of the world. And definitely, Joe, what you said about this whole thing being very metal it did read like a comic book story to me. This whole scene of like this end of times Ganmadan, and there's twin demons, and they're beating a skull. No, not a skull. They have like a drum made out of human skin, and they beat it with bones. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
And one brings the end to everything. Yeah, like
it was horn, and it's made with goat's blood.
Yes.
And it's just like,
then you know that she's got a horn made out of blah 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 blah, and we're like, oh, no, they didn't tell us all that. Oh, love it. So it kind of goes off from them talking, and there's a thunderstorm coming, and then we go further into the atmosphere, and we see the Romulan fleet, and guess who's in charge? Commodore O, who is actually General someone. I forgot to write down her name because I only saw it in the closed captioning.
I love that she's just monologuing by herself in space. It's like she's just sitting there. She's like, all right, 24 hours to go.
Yeah.
We're bringing their death.
Yes. I can't wait for this.
One Romulan, like, looks up from his station and he's like, she just keeps doing this every 20 minutes.
Because she couldn't do that in her office because the Federation was listening to her.
She's finally free.
Like the butterfly. Oh, and she's wearing like one of those like Jat Vashi kind of outfits and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like those are way cooler than like the upholstery material Romulan uniforms. Come on.
Oh, yeah, no, she didn't even have super high shoulder pads.
She did. I mean, they weren't high. They were out.
I think all of the high Romulan shoulder pads got destroyed when their sun went supernova. I think they all got burned up. And I'm thinking about it now. And Joe, you were on in our pre-show with a Romulan-centric episode, and we did talk about the high shoulder pads.
That's right.
Quite a lot. Yeah, they've really
there were a whole lot of them in that episode.
There were. They've really had to reduce their shoulder pad technology since they lost their son and they've become very separated. So it's tough, some things had to be sacrificed.
They couldn't find the right resources to make that material that would stand up on its own like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, they don't look like couches. It doesn't look like they don't have arms in their shirts when they have their arms down. Like,
I know.
So they just look like a block with their arms straight down. It was so funny. They looked like a couch, and the shoulders were the arms of the chair. Anyway, sorry. Just keep I'm just gonna keep riffing on Romulan's old costumes. Anyway, I'm also interested that I didn't think about this previously, but that Commodore O is part Vulcan, but she still has such a high like standing with the Romulans. Like they're not like, yeah, we want you to help us do this, but see you later, you're a piece of trash now.
Well, there's such a low percentage of people that survive the admonition.
Okay.
That in itself probably gave her a lot of status.
That's fair. Oh, well, and she was, I mean, that's totally fair. I mean, she was possibly the only one in her group that went, who knows, that was able to withstand it. I don't know. But it almost seems weird, like they wouldn't have wanted her to even, like, attempt to be part of the Zhat Vash, or maybe they were like, maybe she'll die, and then she didn't, and then so then they're like, oh, she's not as weak as we thought she might be, or whatever. I don't know. That doesn't matter. Guys, we don't need that backstory. I just was thinking, okay? That was a CC to, Alex Kurtzman and crew. Now, of course, I've lost my place. So, we have Narek telling them the plan. We're back in the conference room. He no longer has a sword at his neck. And in the style of before when they had a plan and the Ocean's movies and all that, we see the plan